Welcome to Planning for Summer 2022, our episode today of our webinar series. It's a three-part. This year is specifically about the high adventure opportunities that we have here going on with the National Capital Area Council. And I am going to start us off today with Lenhok'sin High Adventure, a place that I'm very proud of. We are a backpacking and canoeing trek camp at the Goshen Scout Reservation. So you're going to get to learn not so much a little, but a lot about Lenhok'sin High Adventure during our session today. What is Lenhok'sin? Lenhok'sin is National Capital Area Council's very own high adventure camp. Not many councils can say that they have their own, so that's something really special that we have. As I mentioned, we're a part of the Goshen Scout Reservation located in Goshen, Virginia. But if you were to look at a map of Goshen, as I'm sure many of you have, you're not necessarily going to see Lenhok'sin on the map. Instead, you will see Camp Baird, which is our home base. So that's where you'll find us. Lenhok'sin is situated on over 4,000 acres of Goshen Scout Reservation land and is surrounded by about 35,000 acres of state game land. So that's a lot of beautiful forested area that you get to explore there. As I also mentioned, we feature two different types of trek opportunities for scouts that come through. We have our backpacking trek and our canoeing trek, and we're going to spend time on both of those today. I recommend that if you have any questions that you jot them down on a piece of paper nearby, and then once we get through our presentation after Mr. Blackwell's section, we'll be able to answer all of your questions. Backpacking trek. And what better than a picturesque image to get us started? So I like to call Lenhok'sin's program a plan your own adventure program. Here with our backpacking trek, you're able to personally tailor your route to fit your unit's level of experience and goals. So this is perfect for everyone from beginner backpacking units that maybe this is your first big push to units that backpacking is just a piece of cake. It's something you do all the time. And with this plan your own adventure agenda, we're able to say, this is where you're going to be at the end of the day. Let's figure out how you're going to get there. So really taking those merit badge skills that your scouts have learned, especially orienteering and navigation, and applying it to real world situations. I think it's always really rewarding when we're able to see our scouts grow with the opportunities that they've been given. And this is also completed by a pre-trek survey before you arrive at camp. And that helps us as the Lenhok'sin staff kind of curate what areas of camp you're going to be spending the nights in or what activities you're going to be doing, but we'll get more in depth with that in a moment. Lenhok'sin runs over a period of 5 days and 4 nights, all of which are on the trail. You arrive at Goshen at the Lenhok'sin base camp on Sunday. We ship you off and you hit the trail on Monday, and then we say, see you later. Or at least I don't plan to see you until Friday, and that's when you return to base camp. Every day in between then, you're backpacking throughout the Goshen wilderness. And on Saturday, we send you off to your next adventure and hope to see you the following year. I want to share a few iconic images from areas on the Lenhok'sin Trail. So the first is, of course, Viewing Rock. This is always a must-see, and you can see everything that is Goshen. So if you've gone to other camps before, you might be able to identify exactly where they are. I can see Olmsted and Bowman, Ross, Marriott, everything in between. Forge Mountain is another one of our peaks, very picturesque and a little more primitive than others, if that's something that you're interested in. We, of course, have the beautiful Lake Merriweather. It's about 450 acres, situated right in the middle of Goshen. So a lovely place to wade your feet in, maybe go fishing if you're interested. But I will hand it to Camp Marriott. They have one of the best sunsets there on the lake, and this is one of the areas that you'll see. But of course, we've got so many beautiful views, but the most beautiful sight of all is you. So as this slide said, this could be you. We'd love to see you and your unit here at the Lenhok'sin Trail taking a picture with our beautiful Lenhok'sin sign. All right, let's get into it. I've mentioned a little bit about Lenhok'sin activities, and Lenhok'sin is structured in what we call outposts, and we break this into 2 sections. The first is called historical, and the second is technical. And we're going to spend time on each of these areas, but these are the names of our Lenhok'sin outposts. The first of these outposts, one of our most popular, is called Mountain Man. Mountain Man is a 19th century mountain man encampment. So we tend to focus this in the year 1830, or at least within that decade. At Mountain Man, you're able to hone your skills in black powder muzzle-loading rifles, tomahawk throwing, and of course, bartering with the Mountain Man. Our Mountain Man does drive quite a hard bargain, but it's nice to see those future business skills coming out in our scouts. This is a beautiful area to be, and a real sense of living history coming to life. Next on our historical list is Foxfire. That's right, Foxfire, not Firefox, not the internet browser, but Foxfire is a 20th century Appalachian blacksmithing forge. We tend to center this in the year 1913. At Foxfire, you're able to forge your own S and J hooks, as well as some knife blades. Oftentimes they turn out to be more like butter knives, but that's okay. It's the beginning of a skill. That's what we're looking for. We also feature branding. So we have LHA for Lenhok'sin High Adventure and GSR for Goshen Scout Reservation. Oftentimes people will maybe brand their Goshen caps that they get, scraps of leather, pieces of wood that they found. It's a little token of Lenhok'sin to bring back home with them. We also showcase bullet casting, candle making, as well as the beautiful Kelso Spring, which is a perfect place to rest your weary feet after a day on the trail. Lost on our historical list, we have Woods Edge. For those that maybe have been to Lenhok'sin before, you knew this formerly as the Robin Hood Outpost, but Woods Edge is our medieval homestead. We've got 20th and 19th century, might as well bring it down to the 11th and 12th century as well. Aside from being a homestead, we feature archery, dagger throwing, survivalist skills, and Dutch oven cooking. Moving into our technical area, we have aquatics. Need I say more? Spending an afternoon on Lake Merriweather, it has to be as good as it gets. At aquatics, we have stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, a free swim area, and again, this is located on the beautiful 450-acre Lake Merriweather. You can see we've got some scouts up here having some fun on the lake, and down at the bottom, we have a really nice campfire ring, a staging area. This is a great place for scouts to maybe try their hand at their favorite campfire skits that they saw at opening campfire a few days prior. Next, we have caving. I will preface with the caving outpost will be closed for this summer, but we're hoping to be reopened next summer, so we're going to talk about it anyway. At our cave here at Lenhok'sin, we have over 3 miles of cave system, and that is quite a lot to explore. We don't go quite that far, but that leaves you opportunities to come back next year. Here at Caving, we look at cave exploration, more so spelunking, but I like to consider this a very nice beginner cave, especially for scouts and scouters that maybe are claustrophobic or aren't so keen on dark spaces. This cave is nice and cavernous. These goes kind of go hand in hand, as well as a lot of our crawl spaces are optional. So you'll go into a big room and say, okay, if you'd like to go into this section, we're gonna focus on that. But if you need to hang back, we'll have some staff members there with you. So definitely taking it step by step. Again, plan your own adventure, doing what is best for you, and what your levels of comfort are. We also have a big focus on STEM and cave science, everything from how caves form to leave no trace while caving, as well as a big info section about bats, since we do have at least evidence of bats once living in this cave. Next on our list, we have COPE. This stands for Challenging Outdoor Personal Experience. And here our main focus is team building exercises. So oftentimes on the trail, I think we've all heard of the phrases forming, storming, norming, and performing. If you haven't, those are the scouting stages of team development. And whether your unit has been together for years, scouts maybe came up through Cub Scouts together, or maybe this is a new unit that hasn't done a lot before, you're always going to go through those cycles. So COPE is a great opportunity to kind of break down whatever those miscommunications may be on the trail. And we're able to do that through those team building exercises, bring you closer together, more functioning as a team, as well as, of course, our low, medium, and high ropes elements. Up here on the top picture, we have an element that's called the giant swing. Others might call it the flying squirrel, and it is a giant swing. And down here at the bottom, we have a place called the grapevine, and you have to weave your way in between these ropes that you might see dangling from there. And if you're up for a challenge, I encourage you to try it blindfolded. That's always fun. We have a new outpost this year. We're going back to search and rescue. This was last seen at Lenhok'sin in the 1980s. So after a very long hiatus, we're really excited to bring this back to the program. Search and rescue is going to feature staff-led search and rescue scenarios with a lot of focus on gaining introductory skills, everything from backcountry illnesses and injuries, how to treat that. So think sprains and strains, as well as responding to environmental emergencies that may occur while you're out there. So this is really great for units that maybe haven't done so much of that, and these are always good skills to learn. So think of a miniature wilderness first aid exercise. We also are looking at backpacking and backcountry preparedness. Last on our list is primitive camping. All of the outposts that we've talked about previously are all staff-led. So we have Lenhok'sin staff members there, but a primitive camping night is a perfect chance for you and your unit to get away for the day. So this is an opportunity for longer hiking days. Let's say you want to go out to our furthest peak, which is about 13 miles away, and that is called Big Button Mountain. And with a name like Big Butt, what scout doesn't want to go there? So you're able to spend the night without the worries of an outpost. This is a great time for you to check in and maybe work on merit badges or other advancement. Some units in the past have worked on their Kodiak challenge, and it's also a great opportunity to immerse yourself in the Goshen wilderness. Moving on to our James River Canoe trek. And all of the photos that you see here were taken by Crew 893, which is the unit that attended the James River Trek last summer. We have a partnership with a company called the Twin River Outfitters. They're based in Buchanan, Virginia. We're excited to have that partnership again after many years. And with their program, we were able to complete over 61 miles of canoeing adventure. So if you're to look on a map of the James River, this starts down at Iron Gate and ends at the Snowden Dam. And that's a long way to canoe, but of course that earns you your 50-miler just right there. It also has over 100 Class 1 rapids, as well as 20 Class 2 rapids. So by them being Class 1 and Class 2, you don't have to worry about the requirements that go into rapids with BSA versus venturing. So this is accessible for all branches of scouting and their requirements. You're also going to be camping at public campgrounds along the way, which are pre-registered for you before you get there. Just like the backpacking trek, you arrive at base camp on Sunday. We put you off to the outfitters on Monday and you paddle away, and then we see you again on Friday. However, you are going to have a Lenhok'sin staff member with you Monday and Tuesday. So those first 2 days on the trek to, whether it be focusing on paddling skills or giving you a historical tour of the upper section of the James River, that staff member is there for you. So as I said, you have a Lenhok'sin staff member the first 2 days. This is a great opportunity to earn your 50-miler award. Part of that is doing a conservation project, and the Twin River Outfitters always loves it when scouts pick up tires that go into the river. So I know 893 last year had a fun time deciding which tires they could bring along because they found so many. You get to experience tons of whitewater rapids, scenic views of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and this is truly a wilderness experience compared to more developed rivers and programs that you might find in this area. But a one-up on Northern Tier, you don't have to portage if that's something you're not quite ready for. And aside from it being a canoe trek, you also get to whitewater kayak on your very last day on the river. So get to explore different types of watercraft. Also going to share some views with you. This right here is called Scout Rock. That's just where a lot of scouts like to stop for a moment and take in the views. Another view of the James River. This here is Balcony Falls. This is considered one of the highlights of your trek. And I'm going to share with you a quick video of 893 when they were on Balcony Falls last year. I always love watching that and listening to the cheering that's going on in the background. So it's nice to know that I believe Scout Rock is where everybody's cheering from, but that camaraderie that comes out after several days on the river together. Moving on to some general information that applies to both treks and Lenhok'sin as a whole. Participants at Lenhok'sin must be 13 years of age by September 1st, 2022. And that's following national requirements on that. So if your scout happens to be 12 years old and it's July 31st, great, they're able to attend. Unfortunately, if their birthday's on the 2nd, we hope that they consider attending the following year. We do have minimum and maximum crew sizes. For backpacking, our minimum size is 6 participants, 2 of those participants being adults, and we found over several years that that seems to be the best dynamic, at least as a minimum size of ratio scouts to adults. And of course, if you have a co-ed venturing unit, for example, one of those females would have to be, or one of the adults would need to be female, following national standards. For a minimum for our canoeing trek, we have an 8 participant minimum with at least 2 of those participants being 2 adults. But if you're familiar with Goshen Scout Reservation policy, your first 2 adults that attend get to be free. So if you're attending, you as an adult could go for free. And as a maximum, we try to keep our crews to a size of 12 participants, again, with 2 of those being adults. However, sometimes we'll have units come through with 13, maybe 14, and as long as you email us ahead of time, we can definitely make that work. When we have units that are larger than that, let's say a unit of 20, what we like to do is split you into 2 different groups, and those become sister crews that are often doing the same activities or maybe partner together to eat lunch together, but that way we're able to keep everybody on the Lenhok'sin Trail, but following our leave no trace principles and keeping our trails nice and healthy. You also are required to, of course, bring your completed BSA medical forms, that's parts A, B, and C, as well as our NCAC health advisory. The full medical form, including an NCAC health advisory, is available on the form section of the Goshen webpage. Training requirements, I'm not going to spend too much time on here because this is available on the Lenhok'sin page on the Goshen website. But we do have a series of trainings that we require for both backpacking and canoeing. Canoeing has a few additional trainings than backpacking does due to the nature of being on the water. Although for these trainings, aside from YPT, we only require one or more crew members to have. So that is wilderness first aid, CPR, weather hazards. I always feel the more the better, just from a safety standpoint. Weather hazards is a free training that's available on my.scouting.org. And the more people that are first aid certified, I find it's just safer and an insurance policy, if you will. My last thing that I'm going to quickly talk about is food. I know this is always a really big question. We provide meals for your scouts, Sunday dinner through Saturday breakfast. So when you arrive to when you leave, Lenhok'sin is a Mountain House supplier. So a lot of our dinner foods are dehydrated Mountain House foods, but give really great reviews, at least that we've received. We also have allergy accommodations. Last year, we piloted a vegetarian menu that went really well, so we're excited to have that again. However, we encourage those with dietary restrictions to bring supplemental food. I myself, as someone with severe nut allergies, I know that that can be difficult on the trail, so we're nut-free. But you know, your scout knows themselves better than anybody else. They know what their favorite snack foods are. They know how much food they need to eat each day. Although we follow recommended nutritional guidelines, extra snacks in a pack is never a bad idea, as long as they go up in a bear bag at the end of the day, of course. You can find a sample of our 2021 menu still available online, and our 2022 menu, along with nutritional information, will be available soon. And John, I'm going to move over to you for High Adventure Committee, if your slides came through. Eric or Sarah, if we want to vamp in the meantime.
If anyone has questions about Lenhok'sin, there is a question box you'll see as one of your icons at the bottom of the screen. So feel free to put any of your questions in there and we can get those answered.
Tell you what, Elizabeth, I've got another deck I was going to cut to for just a minute to show some things first.
Sure. If you'd like to share your screen, you could add that in there.
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay, let me go over the provisional trek for Lenhok'sin very quickly, and then I'll make
Sure.
it all yours. We're gonna skip on through, everyone. All right, one last thing, and then I promise you're done hearing my voice until the question section. We have a provisional trek. The High Adventure Committee is absolutely incredible, and you'll hear from Mr. John Blackwell in a moment, but the High Adventure Committee is hosting a provisional James River trek canoe section. John, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, it's on our provisional trek, and I'll explain what that means if you don't know what that is in just a minute. But it's the fourth week, which is July 17th to the 23rd. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. A provisional trek or a cohort, not cohort, I'm spacing out now. Anyway, a provisional trek is where you take a bunch of different troops, so they don't only have one or two participants, may not have enough for a full crew, like Elizabeth was saying, could be anywhere from 8 to 12 for a canoe trek. We have 3 from one troop, 2 from an adventuring crew, another 4 or 5 from somewhere else. Put them all together, and you can form a big enough unit to go on a trek and experience everything there is to know about the James River through Lenhok'sin. So that's what a provisional or a contingency trek is the word I was looking. Contingent trek is all about. We have 3 people signed up so far, so there's up to 5 open minimum open spots. They go as high as 12, so that'd be another 4. And we're really looking forward to doing this. The guide for the lead adult advisor is Mark Ray, who's on the High Adventure Committee and on the Aquatics Committee for NCAC. He teaches paddling and watercraft safety and all that. So he's going to be a great guy to go out there and learn something about trekking on the river if you don't know too much about it already. And I'm not sure I need to say anything more than that. What do you think? Oh, it costs us $420.
Yeah, that's an important one. If you have, of course, we can answer any questions that you may have about the provisional trek, but if you want to find out more information about the trek itself, you can find more on the Lenhok'sin website, on gotogoshen.org, as well as the High Adventure Committee page. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so John, you can share yours.
Okay. So I wanted to start out with a little bit. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. Sarah, where on the Lenhok'sin page is that provisional trek information?
It's right above the contact section.
There you go. Okay, this is from a University of Scouting lecture that you may have seen if some of you attended that a few weeks ago. But where is BSA High Adventure? Well, the four main national bases are, starting over in the lower left there, Philmont out in northern New Mexico, and that is wilderness backpacking. You rotate clockwise up to the northern tier up at the top of the map there. It's something situating over the Canadian and the US borders is northern tier, which is wilderness canoeing. Then if we kind of come down a little bit down to the north southeast, we'll see a bear, and that's our favorite nearly normal mountain out in West Virginia called Summit Bechtel Preserve. And we'll touch on the beautiful Lenhok'sin logo there down in southwestern Virginia, but that's not a national base, that is a council base. And all the way down in the Florida Keys is the Florida Keys Sea Base, or the Florida Sea Base. Actually, they are bigger than Florida because they have sailing trips, anything on the water that you'd want to do for high adventure. Sailing, scuba diving, snorkeling, fishing, even an out island adventure where you go out and act like a primitive banshee for a week at a time. It's a lot of fun. I've done that myself. Go back there every year. No, not really. So those are the national bases. There are councils around the country, not many, as Elizabeth said, that actually have their own high adventure programs. Lenhok'sin here at NCAC. There's other two that are pretty nearby that a lot of people sometimes are interested in. Adirondack up in middle to northern New York, and Maine High Adventure. And you can figure out where that one is. Okay, now I need to There we go. Whoops. Okay. So why would you want to have a high adventure program? This is maybe introductory material for a lot of you, but it's the ultimate use of your Scoutcraft skills. I think Elizabeth referred to this before. Go out in the woods and actually practice all those first class requirements you've been working on so far. It continues to challenge you all the way across your time as a scout. Retains older scouts because it gives them something a little more challenging to do. And as we refer to it, it's the trip of a lifetime, no matter which one you choose. Gain perspective of the world, you gain perspective with your crew, gain a new perspective of yourself. And there's three ways you can go. There you can go as a unit, go through the council-run contingent crews, which I was just explaining, and as an individual. I'm going to touch on that, but I won't spend too much time on that one. So why would you want to go with the contingent crew? Like I said earlier, you might have a shortage of people, but more often than not, you may not have enough experienced trekkers in that particular, whatever base you choose to go to. May not have, your crew may not be doing, or crew may not be doing a lot of backpacking, but you want to learn. Well, the first thing you got to do is go down to Lenhok'sin. The next thing you should do is consider from there, maybe a council contingent crew. because we provide all the logistics for you. We arrange the airfare and ground transportation, and lodging. In other words, transport to or from the airport to your base and back. And you don't have to have a lot of people experienced in planning, as you can imagine, what can be a little bit of a complicated trip. We do that for you. We provide you training, and we provide you a T-shirt. So all those good things would lead you to believe, if you don't have the experience, to go on a council contingent crew instead of a one of your own making. We have trips available for Philmont, Northern Tier, and Sea Base. Right here in NCAC, Summit is so close that we don't really provide a provisional trip there, because you can kind of pick and choose on your own and make the arrangements, get in a car and drive up there pretty easily. So we don't usually do those as a council contingent troop, but Summit has quite a big list of different activities. As an individual, there are some individual crews. If you're in the OA, something you really got to look at is joining a trail crew for the OA at Philmont, or an OA trip at one of the other bases as well. It's about a half to a third of what the normal base fee is. And you get to go out there and work for a week, and then you have a week to do whatever activity is at your base. In other words, go hiking at Philmont backcountry, or take a fishing or scuba trip in the Keys, or go on a canoe trek in Northern Tier. You have ranch hands. Philmont is a working ranch, so you can test your skill as a horseman and as a cattle hand. Roving Outdoor Conservation School, and then Rayado is like the ultimate Philmont adventure. It's like a trek at Philmont on steroids. You go out there for yourself, by yourself, get it put into a high-performing crew, spend 21 days at the ranch. That's a real experience. Okay, this is the last slide I want to get to, and then Elizabeth, you can pull up that other deck in a minute. But this is like the progression or ages and stages of what you should consider for high adventure. As Elizabeth did mention before, Lenhok'sin, minimum age is 13, which is a little bit on the low end. There are some programs at Sea Base that are minimum age 13 as well as at Summit. All the other bases are pretty much 14 years or older, or you can be 13 and have completed the 8th grade. One of my sons was 13. His birthday is in August. He graduated from 8th grade, took him on a Philmont trek. He turned himself into a billy goat, clomping around the mountains out there. It was a wonderful time. Philmont and Northern Tier have some pretty rough or challenging adventures. Probably the most challenging are the scuba ones at at Sea Base, because you do have to be qualified or certified as a diver. Not that that's hard to do, but it does take some more training and more time to prepare. And if you really want a good time, on the other end of the temperature scale, go up to Ukpik in Northern Tier in the middle of winter, learn how to camp in the ice and snow, and dog sled and everything else. Okay, Elizabeth, I'll stop sharing and you can share over me.
Sure.
There we go.
I'm just going to bring them all up.
Yeah, I think this might be your deck, but.
This is my deck. I do not have yours.
Oh, okay. Rats. Okay. All right. So a lot of you have questions, probably, if you're talking about going to a high adventure trip to a national base this summer. The big words I can tell you are 2 words. It depends. Right now, some of these are the protocols from last year. Some of these may be in effect this year. Many of them may not be. Right now, the bases are just forming their plans for their COVID procedures for this summer. I can tell you the way it's looking, it's going to be very different than it was last year. Let me just go through this old list, tell you what you can expect. All 4 national bases plan to open, either fully or in part. That is true. Sea Base, I believe Summit, Philmont, or full bore go ahead. Northern tier, I didn't explain earlier, but has 3 actual bases: Ely in the United States, Bissett, Atikokan, and Bissett. Bissett is the furthest one north. That is open this summer. Atikokan, the one in the middle, is closed as far as we know right now. So there was a lot of people that have moved down into Ely, filling up a lot of the available spots. So that's what that means for this year. There will not be a $50 surcharge for COVID protocols. They're incorporating that into their regular base fee. You don't have to worry about spending an extra $50. Well, in fact, you're going to spend it. You're just not going to see where they put it. They put it in with all the other charges, but you don't have an extra surcharge on top of that. There'll probably be some degree of participant screening. In other words, filling out a form before departure saying you're COVID-free, either by vaccination or by testing. Each crew is probably going to remain together as a cohort throughout their time at whatever base they're at. With some masks and social distancing required, perhaps. A lot of that depends on, here again, how the protocols change from now until the summertime. There won't be a sanitation chief, and they will be having requirements reinstated for wilderness first aid CPR. Elizabeth, do you think these folks participating know what wilderness first aid classes are all about? You're on mute.
I am. We can definitely go over it.
Yeah, I think we probably should. The wilderness first aid is a 16-hour class in advanced first aid medicine. Not advanced like a paramedic, but advanced in being able to care for someone when a hospital is more than an hour away. In other words, somebody in the backwoods picks up their cell phone and calls 911, except for the local rescue squad, they get you. And you have to take care of them. I don't mean you get a phone call. What I'm saying is you have to know how to adapt to the environment. You don't have a leg splint, which is something an ambulance would carry. Well, maybe you put 2 hiking poles together and use some duct tape and slap it together and support the person. Maybe you don't have. Go
A
ahead.
lot of wilderness first aid is about stabilization and being able to provide care up until the point where medical professionals are able to come and assist.
That's right. That's exactly right. So that's a 2-day class. On top of that, a lot of the providers with wilderness first aid also provide a CPR class. Need to have at least one person wilderness first aid CPR trained on a trek to Lenhok'sin, and 3 of the national bases. Philmont requires you to have 2 people fully qualified in wilderness first aid and CPR. And actually, that's not a bad idea for anybody going on a high adventure trek, because if you only have one person and that one person gets hurt, then what do? You really have to improvise. And I think Elizabeth said anybody can take CPR in high school and everything. The more people that are wilderness, either wilderness first aid or CPR trained, the better.
Yeah, and at least for Lenhok'sin, it doesn't have to be adult leaders that are WFA or first aid certified. You can have a youth member, and that's a great opportunity for them to become a leader and take charge on that. NCAC is offering a program called Outdoor Preparedness Initiative. A lot of times that's through Camp Snyder, where they have opportunities to become wilderness first aid certified. But National also has a list of approved providers that offer wilderness first aid certification.
Yep. We actually have a list we can provide you too. That's a great point, though. Wilderness first aid minimum age is 14, I believe. So especially if you have an interest in emergency medicine as a youth, why not go get the training, take care of your crew, and learn to have some experience later on when you take more advanced training. Elizabeth, could you kick over to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Okay, here's what's available. 12-day, Philmont has a 9-day trek available now too. So 12, 7, and 9-day treks, limited openings. However, with the Philmont here, I've got to caveat this. If you're just now thinking about going to Philmont, you're about a year behind in preparation. So only if you have a crew that's been training, backpacking heavily, would you want to consider a Philmont trek in 2022, this summer. Where you'd be more often to do would be to get into the lottery, which occurs in this fall, for 2024 treks. So about 18 months in advance for Philmont. For Sea Base, Northern Tier, and Summit, there are some limited availability in some of these areas. Here's some of the programs that Sea Base offers: Coral Reef Sailing, Key West Sailing, Marine STEM, Scuba Liveaboard, St. Croix and St. Thomas Adventures as well. Northern Tier, this says Ely Base only, but like I was telling you, the set is open. There's some limited dates later on in the summer. And the Summit usually has pretty good availability throughout the summer on most of their programs. Some of the ATV ones fill up first. I wasn't able to check the website to see what the current availability is. That's an easy thing for you to do. Okay, let's move on to the last slide. If you take out the word COVID protocols out of the URL, to say philmont.scottranch.org, that'll take you to the base for Philmont. Same thing with Sea Base, psaseabase.org. Northern Tier, www.northerntier.org, and summit.org. Did you give them your Lenhok'sin webpage?
I did, but it's also here. If you were just to go to www.gotogoshen.org, then up comes our big page, and Lenhok'sin is one of the 5 camps that shows up, and clicking on that tab will bring you straight over to us. All right, we all good on this slide?
Yep.
Our favorite part,
Yep.
questions.
So we've got 3 questions in our question and answer. If anyone else has more questions, there's a Q&A symbol at the bottom of your screen. So our first question is, Lenhok'sin, how reliable is the water supply? Fill up once a day, dry camps?
Yeah, so I'd say it's really reliable. We do have a few dry areas, but we one of the things I mentioned with this plan your own adventure section, we bring you to a maps and orientation round robin station. And as part of that, we say, okay, these are the areas where it's dry and you want to pre-plan your water storage, but every outpost is going to have water available. The only one place that doesn't have a consistent water source for you to fill up on your own would be the woods edge area, but we bring coolers filled with water out to you to supplement that. Each of the water source areas is going to be primarily a stream that you're going to purify with water purification tablets, maybe a gravity bag, whatever your unit prefers to do, and use that. We do have an extensive section on water purification on the Lenhok'sin leader guide as well, but we'll make sure that you always have water, and you can of course stop inside one of the other base camps, whether that be Bowman, Olmsted, Ross, Marriott, and fill up water stations at their shower house as well.
All right, next question. For backpacking at Lenhok'sin, does a guide accompany the cruise?
No, we do not have a guide accompany your cruise during the first days at Lenhok'sin. That's because you're on GSR property. However, we do have an extensive round robin station program that you go through when you first arrive at Lenhok'sin, and this covers everything from, all right, let's check your bag. Did you pack your own bag? And then we go through what's necessities and maybe items that aren't necessarily needed, to how to properly set up a campsite, leave no trace in the wilderness, first aid, hygiene, as I said, maps and orientation. So we're quite good at covering everything that you need to know before you head out on the trail. Although as part of this, just like going to Philmont or any other camping trip, we highly recommend doing shakedowns beforehand. And you can start off with, maybe a simple day hike with just a backpack with first aid kit, water, and snacks. And then over a few weeks, you can gradually add on the weight and increase the miles, because Lenhok'sin is difficult. It's hard. And you want to be prepared for that. And part of that comes in that pre-camp planning.
Our next question might be more of an Eric question. Our crew is co-ed and both adult leaders are women. Is there any requirement for a male leader as with other high adventure camps?
Yes, per the guide to advance, per the youth protection guidelines, yes, if you have a male participant scout, then you will have to have a male adult leader. Just like if you have a female participant scout, you will have to have a female adult leader. So if you've got a co-ed crew, you will need both a male and a female adult leader.
All right, next question. Are there any age-related waivers? We have a first-class scout who will turn 13 on September 4th, 2022, who would like to go to Lenhok'sin.
I believe our past answers to that have been unfortunately not, because that is a national policy. So that will be the same across any high adventure base you go to.
That's correct. As far as I know, Philmont does not give waivers for age as well.
All right, and the next question, how does the VETS program dovetail with the high adventure hiking program?
Yeah, so Goshen vets, Bowman vets, not sure what they're being called this year. I'm working extensively with Avery Tarwater, the Camp Bowman camp director on this, and we're kind of revamping the vets program. But the vets utilizes Lenhok'sin activities as part of their program. So in the morning, oftentimes when Lenhok'sin crews aren't there, vets have the opportunity to go to Foxfire for the morning and work on some of their bladesmithing and blacksmithing, or they can go to our aquatics area. So it's a great way to get opportunities in the Lenhok'sin program without necessarily doing the backpacking component that comes with it. Although I know that the vets has often done some hiking trips of their own as well, whether that be starting at Bowman and going up to Viewing Rock. I think they've tried going over to Big Butt once in the past. So I think VETS is looking at becoming a little more structured this year than it has in the past, but we're still incorporating Lenhok'sin programs.
All right, if anyone else has any other questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'll give another 30 seconds or so to see if any other questions come in. Is there anything else people should know about Lenhok'sin or the high adventure bases?
Not that I can think of, although if you do have any questions, I recommend looking at our leaders guide, which again is on the go to goshen.org webpage. My email is also available there, and I'm always happy to answer, whether that be via email or setting up a Zoom conference or a telephone call. We also have the opportunity to get kind of a specialized curated Lenhok'sin information session. If your unit is interested in something like that, we have a Google form that you can fill out. For example, I'm going to one tomorrow night, and you can virtually talk about Lenhok'sin, maybe if your committee or parents want more information. John also talked about OA opportunities, and Lenhok'sin does have a provisional Goshen Order of the Arrow Trail program. So for about half the cost, you're able to go to Lenhok'sin for 2 weeks, the first week being conservation-based programming and trail work, and the second week being Lenhok'sin programming. So there's more on that at our website, but have to say go to GOAT. It's a great program. I think we have one more question.
We do. This is actually more of a Scouts BSA question, so we're jumping webinars a little bit here. But can Scouts staying at Olmsted participate in VETS? And I'll take that one. Scouts BSA at Olmsted, Bowman, and at Camp Marriott can all participate in the VETS program. It's a reservation-wide program.
Olmsted still have that Pride program? Did they do away with that?
X-Pride was one of the early versions, which all the older Scout programs have now merged into the Goshen VETS program, hosted out of Camp Bowman.
Bowman's a better place for it anyway.
We'll stay out of camp politics while we're here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Illinois was my first camp at Goshen. I won't tell you when that was. You know, when they opened, I was there for the initial camper in the inaugural camper year. It shows you how old hikers never die. We just hang around, talk a lot. One thing I did want to mention real quick, if you were thinking about all the questions around Lenhok'sin, that's terrific, because I think in this area, especially in this council, Lenhok'sin should be the target of every scout that wants to get some outdoor experience in the wilderness. But if you're thinking about beyond to the other 4 national camps, PSA National just stood up a great portal called Open for Adventure. Open number 4 Adventure. Type that into Google and you'll get the URL of the site. They have extensive content on all the 4 major bases. We can peruse all the different adventures you can do, different activities, a little bit about scheduling. And when you're ready, there's a link right there to book your reservation. Apply your father's credit card, spend $250, and you reserve yourself a trek on one of the 4 adventure bases. That's a good one-stop shop to get information, much better form than what I gave you tonight, but it will give you the opportunity to choose your adventure and then go ahead and book it. That's about all, I think.
I think with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and discussing wonderful high adventure opportunities. Feel free to join us next week as we discuss our BSA camps. And with that being said, have a wonderful night. Thank you.